So how are you?
It's been interesting, but I'm good. How are you?
Yeah, I'll go with that.
Yeah.
It's, it's kind of right now, it's really up and down a bit,
Yeah.
but it's not, it's handleable if we are trying to make sure that we are taking care of ourselves and being balanced about things.
Hmm.
And that is so much of what the wisdom keepers are bringing through right now. And so we've got so much to go into. Let's just start at the beginning.
Yeah.
In Yasmin Boland's Moonology book, um, the words for right now are release, let go, move on, forgive, detox. And I think the difference in what she's saying with this, I mean, she's been saying this is how it's been going for a very, very, very long time. Um, but the forgive is geared more towards yourself. Can you forgive yourself for things that you have done? Can you forgive other people for the hurts that you have perceived they have put on you, which may not and frequently are not the same in their perception as what you saw. And so those are kind of the what's coming right now. As far as release and let go and detox, they've been going much more into uh, how to do this, how
Mm.
to take healthcare, which most of our systems right now, what we call healthcare, is actually sick care, and
Yes.
move it to a self-care system, which is much more in tune with what you are doing.
Yeah.
And so I would like to talk a little bit about that and what's coming through with that. First, I want to put out the disclaimer. If you have a medical emergency, if you need to have genuine medical treatment, get it. No questions, get it. If you're in an accident in a car and you're bleeding, go to the hospital. Okay.
Yeah.
On the other hand, if you have, that's an acute situation. If you
Yeah.
have a chronic situation, you're noticing a leaky gut or gut issues, asthma, allergies, all of these diseases that we are seeing so prevalently right now, there's a really good chance you have something stuck inside of you that is causing this disease. And as within, so without. If you want to heal that, as opposed to getting treatment, there's a difference. Treatment is you go to the hospital, you go to the doctor, and they do something for you. Healing comes from within. Healing always comes from within. And this requires a lot of inner work. Let me give you a quick example of what this looks like.
Mhm.
For me, I've been dealing with diseases, chronic diseases, all of my life. And so some of this quote trauma, and I'll do a little explanation as to what trauma is in just a minute, but some of this trauma may not even come from me. When we are coming into this experience in form, we are in our mother, and whatever our mother has in her is also possibly passed down to us, and almost always it is. And so you may be carrying things that are not even yours. So for me, I had to heal some traumas, quote traumas, and I'll put that in quote because I don't want to use the word too much for clarity's sake. But the trauma that I first started to heal with, and this is going to sound so silly, but it explains how simple and how deep trauma can be. Okay. The first thing I needed to heal that came up in my mind as I asked my body what it needed, as I asked my gut, what do you need? What are you holding? What, please bring it forth so that we can deal with it and let it go. And so it brought me up the picture of when I was in about fifth or sixth grade, and I had my first crush on a boy.
Okay.
And I had reached out to try and mention it, not make let him know this. And of course, it was unrequited. And so that was the trauma, was an unrequited affection
Hmm.
or such. And I understand how simple that is. But even simple things can cause us traumas that can cause blockages, basically because of what we've dealt with before. So what that one linked to, and the trauma it linked to, most of you understand that my mother died after being in prison for 15 years a little while back, for the murder of my sister-in-law, my former sister-in-law. Well, as it turns out, the trauma that she had passed on to me when I was born through her was the trauma of her family history of abuse and her feelings and such that had never been dealt with. So, in order to heal this very simple, unrequited request, I also needed to heal my mother's long term dis-ease and distress with everything that she had gone through and how she felt so powerless. And that's the connection, was I felt powerless when I reached out and it was unrequited. She felt powerless to the point where she was able to take another life, which was, there's all sorts of, we can go on and all sorts of rabbit holes with that one, but that she was able to do that. And that was the key, was powerlessness.
Hmm.
I could then release powerlessness in me for myself and for her. And it was so freeing. And I still feel so energized because of it.
Yes.
That's what we're talking about when we're talking about this inner work, this deep, deep inner work.
Hmm. Yes.
And so I just wanted to put all of that in a thing together
Right.
so that it kind of could be easily digested in
Right.
simple terms.
Yeah. Well, and it's really interesting that you talk about this, and you're using the word unrequited, right? It's that not returned piece. And when we don't have a reciprocal relationship with someone that we want, that we think should be reciprocal, or we think things could be returned because perhaps we see that potential in the other person, but they're not allowing themselves to be who they know they are, who they don't know they are. That true self isn't shining through because they're not willing to let it. And so those of us who are empaths, we feel and we know different things at whatever age we are, then there's that other level of inconsistency perhaps that we feel, and yet it's all about the learning. And I see this so often in my EMDR sessions with my clients, and myself as an EMDR client in the past. When we can hold space for these hurts from our existence, then we, for lack of a better term, but we let go and we allow, just like you talk about allowing and flowing, that true blueprint of us to shine through. And so we're not carrying these things so much anymore. It does change people around us. Some people don't want to change, so they come at us with these harsh words or actions, or they pull away from us, and we think we've lost them because they don't want to be around us because we've changed so much. And yet we're our true self, and it's that fear-based stuff that's still in our society that comes through, and patience then. Like all of it is a learning opportunity and a teaching opportunity for the self and for others. And you're right, it's that flow and that cycle of self and other. And yeah, thank you for sharing all of that. Those were important points.
So the question there is, what can we release right now as this energy, and it's huge, strong energy of the full moon in Libra comes through,
Yeah.
which is, and Libra is a sign that's associated with Venus, which is love. And so it's going to be very much about love, that things that we have held that we don't need to hold, things that we felt like we needed at the time, but we no longer need. All of these things around relationships and love, and how can we free ourselves to receive more of that?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. And it's the full moon eclipse, right?
It
So the
is
eclipse piece is that extra, 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 extra power.
like on steroids, yes.
Yeah. 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 So, wow. Yeah. Powerful time, and that's coming up Monday, March 25th.
Yeah. A week from today, yeah.
Yeah. So,
Well, a week from the day that this was taped.
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
We hope to get it out to all of you beforehand so that you can actually watch it before the event actually happens. But yes,
Yeah.
I can feel the energy of it already
Ready.
coming, and I'm sure you can too.
Yeah. 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 Everyone.
And moreover, it's the start of a very, very important eclipse season, which is going to
Mhm.
be just mind-bogglingly transformative.
Yeah.
And it's just, okay, let's, how can we get ready for this?
Yeah.
And that's the next piece of what they have been talking about.
Okay.
How can we live in this world with everything that's going on and seeing all of this change and transformation without letting it affect us, without being of the world? And that's what they've been working on a lot. And as the energy sometimes gets really heavy, and I'm like, okay guys, what do I do now? How do I get out of this? What do I need to do so that I don't get stuck in this?
Yeah.
And they said, look at the bigger picture. And they
Mm.
showed me the bigger picture of how we are brought into this existence on this planet at this time. Although this is true for all times, but especially now, that we are brought into this, we are created by that creative energy force of the world, which in their estimate we would see as feminine. It's
Mm.
creative feminine energy because that's what creates. But in order to create us, that feminine energy had to separate itself into two pieces. One divided by one equals two. It's not the other way around like we've been taught. In this particular way of thinking, in this kind of different kind of math or whatever you want to call it, one divided by itself becomes two. And she had to create into that the divine masculine as well as the divine feminine. So
Mm.
she was the divine feminine. She created the divine masculine. Okay. She also created this planet, which she created through that energy in a divine feminine energy. So now we have our two mothers, this creative source, and our Mother Earth, bringing us, each of us, into the world. And
Mm.
as we do that, we come not as separate, but as connected through everything. Yes, we see ourselves as separate as we come into this experience, but we are not truly separate. We are necessary. We are deeply loved, more than we can even imagine. And if we can keep that much bigger picture when the times get a little bit heavier, when the energy is like, I am deeply loved, I am necessary, and I am of the greater picture, of the highest energy, of the whatever you want to name it, you can call it whatever moniker you want. It
Hmm.
becomes the same thing. It is the same thing. It is all that is.
Hmm.
And each of us is all that is. And so, with that bigger picture in mind, we can let go of all of that heaviness. We can allow the energy, the love to flow through us like we were when we were doing the healing. It all flows through us, and we can go forward without efforting. Maybe we have a very simple issue. For instance, the chickens outside and they're nesting, and we had one chicken where she had laid all of her eggs in a nest, and another mother who had just had her babies and only had a few of them left because there's a lot of mites around right now. She needed a different place to stay, so she decided she was going to stay the nights on this other hen's nest. Well, and I'm like, I can't move anything. Can't, what do I do? And I said, please make this work out for the highest good of all and make it simple and easy for me. And so the next morning, the mama hen who had the eggs, as soon as the mama hen with the babies left, she got on the nest and she hasn't left. And
Nice.
so last night, she spent the entire night on her nest, and the mama with the babies spent the night in a different nest, in a different place. And I'm like, thank you, so much gratitude. Thank you.
Hmm.
That's non-efforting.
Yeah. 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 So some people might say, well, there was a little bit of effort on your part because you'd said the prayer, you asked the universe, you reached out, you were worried about it, you thought about it, and that kind of thing. And yet, the non-efforting is the having to take further action and to deal with the hands and maybe be hands-on and that kind of thing, right?
Yeah, the non-efforting was I didn't have to move a nest, I didn't have to move the chickens, I didn't. And by the way, that is how we create. And if you want to call it miracles, you can call it miracles. If you want to call it, that's just creation, the way we create whatever our world around us. Uh, that's that's how I see it, is creating the world around us with whatever we have available. And
Hmm.
when we create, if we want to create something the way that I just did it, we have to ask for their help.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just, they cannot intercede on our behalf
Without
unless
us
we
asking.
ask.
Exactly.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes. And that's often a tough thing for people to learn is to ask for help, or even if it's in your own head, right? Is to, because so many of us have been raised to be so independent. Our culture in the Western world, if you will, has us be independent, sleeping on our own right from delivery. And that, and I know it's changing a little bit, and some of us didn't do that. But it's this independent, you should be able to do this. You should. And I tell my clients, why are you shitting on yourself? Like, don't shit on yourself because we have things in place. Rebuild the village, allow yourself to find that even just one person or one being, entity, tree outside that you can rely on. Some asking for help.
And the thing about the our most of our societies have taught us, just power through it, just power through it,
Yeah.
power through it. That's efforting.
Yes.
Non-efforting is easing, allowing, letting it flow.
Yes.
And it feels so much better, so much more natural. and it does really flow.
Yeah.
And the way back now, this is like, when I was a kid, they used to say you can try hard or you can try soft, and soft will get them every time. It's true. It's
Yeah.
absolutely true.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. That's cool. Okay, so ease up, stop efforting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Stop efforting, just take a breath, ask for what you need,
Yeah.
and ask, not just oh, I need a bigger house, or I need something, I don't know, I need a soda right now, or whatever
Mm-hmm.
it happens to be.
Mm-hmm.
This
Yeah.
is like heartfelt. We have different centers. Everybody is taught that the brain is that's where everything comes from. That's where all thought, all emotion, all everything comes from. This is not true. The
Mm-hmm.
brain, if we see our bodies as a computer, the brain is the processor. That's all it is the processor. Where do all of the emotions come from? They come from the heart. But
Mm-hmm.
where does the major portion of thought, and where does everything that we hold into us get stuck? And what is the number one operating system of our bodies? It's the gut. It is the gut.
Yeah.
And so, if we want to go back to the beginning and heal anything, whether it be asthma and allergies or leaky gut or anything to do with the gut, we have to go back and we have to ask our bodies, how can I work with you? What can you bring up to me and we can handle and I can let go of, so that you can be in much better health, much better um, working order, so that we can be our best selves.
Yeah.
But it's through the gut. It's
Mm.
not through the brain. You can't think your way through these things. You
Mm.
have to feel it. You have to let it go. And you
Mm.
have to know what it is so you can feel it.
Yeah. Yeah. So my suggestion, if anyone's curious about how to do this, is learn how to do a body scan. Learn how to connect with that body felt sense. And there's lots of stuff to do out there. You can reach out to us too, but there's a lot of stuff on YouTube, lots of stuff elsewhere. Just find what resonates and what helps, right? Because doing a body scan or that sense of connection can really help with what you're talking about, like with how to recognize where you can listen. How do I want to say it? Uh, from what part of the body to listen to.
And true, there are numerous methods available to any one of us, and find the one that works for you. But
Yeah.
what I did, and it's very simple, I set myself down and I put myself in that deeper state, and I asked, gut, please bring to me whatever is blocking anything,
Mm-hmm.
anything. And so we can work through this. I can then bring it forth and allow it, and then release it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But the
Yeah.
main thing was to get into a frame of mind where you're ready to do it, and then ask, you know,
Beautiful.
hey gut, or and it's not necessarily just the gut. These things are held in every single cell of our body, in our DNA, and we'll be releasing all of that too, so that we can get past all of these traumas.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's our whole body is filled with this.
Yeah.
And it's like, if you want to clean off the computer, you kind of have to clean everything. But you also, predominantly, you want to clean off all of the software, the programming, that has been there that isn't working any longer.
Mm. Yes. Yeah. And I think, you know, many people are connecting with that through the somatic therapies that are more prevalent these days. So it's spot on. All of these things are here now with purpose. Catch the wave.
And the reason we have access to so much right now, I mean, and it all kind of works hand in hand. Yes, we have all of this technology. We didn't have it in the past. We need it right now so that we can handle all of it, so that we can move forward into the new world and we can create the new world.
Yeah.
We couldn't create it. You cannot create new from the old. You
Mm.
have to create new from new
Mm.
in order to be able to be ready to create from the new. We have to get rid of all the old.
Mm. There's that redefinition concept that comes back. And it's a bit different this time, but yeah, along the same lines. My goodness. Lots of things to ponder and to take into consideration. And it seems like a lot of work, and yet when we can do the little bit to get us into practice, then it doesn't seem so much. It just becomes second nature now and true nature.
And the more we do it, the easier it gets.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly. Hmm. You always have such beautiful concepts to explore and to ponder and, you know,
Have help.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And it's magical too because as you and I talk in between our online meetings, we feel the same quite often. We check in and do those things and I didn't know you were going to talk about this health stuff today. And I was on a meeting talking to our Interior Health Regional District about how things need to change with person and family centered care. And I'm on that committee for a reason. You know, we did a brainstorm. It was beautiful. There was a lot that I said this morning that I may not have felt I could in past meetings. And so, divine timing, me having done work for this chakra and the whole connective
And
line to allow.
there's so many medical doctors now, especially family practitioners or whatever you want to call them, primary care. There's a lot of different names for them. Whomever your doctor might be, there's so many of them right now that are really leaning toward holistic, integrative medicine, and that if I would suggest if you don't have a doctor who is willing to consider that, you might want to find a different doctor, somebody who is willing to consider that.
Yeah,
And they're out there. I know they're out there.
yeah, yeah. Even if we feel like we're in a healthcare crisis and there aren't people around, it will happen. You
They're
will.
even showing up in emergency rooms now
Yes,
and really actually saving people's lives because of the integrative part of what they do. And
exactly.
so it's wonderful to see. It's fantastic. It needs to be.
Yeah.
And so that's just my what shall we call that, a soapbox?
Yeah.
Do what is in your best interest, and that is to look beyond the old ways and see the new ways at least coming in and melding with the old ways so that it
Yeah.
can change into what needs to be.
Yeah. Beautifully said. Is there anything further that you and the Wisdom Keepers wanted to express today?
I think we got it all in.
Yeah, I was taking notes there for a minute when I was looking down because I was like, oh, I got to remember these terms, and
I got my paper.
yeah,
But
absolutely.
they're um, I can write it down. I could practice it. I don't practice it, but I could. But it's still going to be, they're going to come through and say, you need to say this now. You need to say this now. And, okay, fine.
Yeah. I love it. Yeah, I love it. And I think more of us are get messages that way because it's started to really amplify in my practice. I'll stop, a client will have spoken about something and I'll stop and I'll just hear these things and it'll come through and I'm, just say things. They're like, well, how'd you think about that? I'm like, it wasn't mine. That just came through me.
I even have a client who just uh, talked to me a little bit, sent me a message and said, "Oh, I'm remembering this from when I was like 3 or 4."
Cool. Yeah.
And it's the same kind of thing. And I'm like, yes.
Good. Yeah. Yeah. And, you know, yay, hallelujah, so much gratitude, all of those, whatever terminology you want to use there as a celebration. And so be it, right? And that's where we need to get to.
And that's how we move into the new world.
Yeah.